My girlfriend forged my signature to sell my house and give her parents $150,000, but when she came back with her father to steal, security cameras exposed them, and they got arrested. I'm 34 years old. I've been working in construction since I got out of high school, and 3 years ago, I managed to buy my own house after years of saving every penny I earned. A 3-bedroom house with a backyard and garage, nothing fancy, but it was mine, completely mine, and I was proud like you have no idea. I never thought that house, which represented all my effort and sacrifice, was going to become the center of the worst betrayal I've ever experienced. I guess I should start at the beginning, when I met Tiffany like 4 years ago at a get-together with mutual friends. At first, everything seemed normal. We went out a few times, we got along well, we had chemistry. She worked in an office, I think in human resources or something like that, and she seemed like a stable and centered person. After a year of dating, I proposed that she move in with me, and honestly, at that moment, I felt happy. Like I thought I was building a life with someone who loved me. She accepted, super excited, and moved in with some boxes of clothes and her personal stuff. The first few months were good. We cooked together, watched movies on weekends, made plans for the future. All the things normal couples are supposed to do. But like a year and a half into living together, things started to change. Turns out Tiffany's parents, who lived like 2 hours away, were having serious financial problems. And when I say serious, I mean they were about to lose their house because they hadn't paid the mortgage in months. Tiffany started mentioning it more and more often, like, "My mom is really stressed. My dad can't find work. I don't know what they're going to do." At first, I just listened and tried to be understanding. I'd say things like, "I hope they find a solution. I'm sure something will come up." But then she started hinting that maybe I could help them. Not directly, but like she'd drop comments like, "Imagine having so much money saved and not being able to use it to save your and family." Or, if I had a paid-off house, I could take out a loan against it to help my parents. The truth is, those comments made me pretty uncomfortable. Because, I worked years to buy that house. Literally years getting up at 5 in the morning to go to the construction site. Skipping outings with friends to save money. Eating the cheapest stuff possible so I could put together the down payment. And her parents, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but they had always been kind of irresponsible with money according to what Tiffany herself had told me before. Like they'd buy things they didn't need, they'd take out credit cards for vacations, that kind of thing. So, it didn't seem fair to me that I had to put my assets at risk for other people's financial mistakes. They weren't even my family, technically, since we weren't even married yet. I told Tiffany I couldn't help them financially, that I was sorry, but my house was my only financial security, and I couldn't risk it. She got angry, obviously, and we had some strong arguments about it. She accused me of being selfish, of not understanding what family is, that if I were in that situation, she would help me without thinking. But I stood firm because, honestly, something inside me told me that giving in on this would be a huge mistake. After those fights, she stopped mentioning it for a while, like she resigned herself, or at least that's what it seemed like. And I thought she had gotten over the topic. But then she started acting weird. Like, she'd get nervous when I came home early. She'd close her laptop quickly when I entered the living room. She'd get calls and go to another room to answer. At first I thought, I don't know. Maybe she's planning something for my birthday that was coming up. Or maybe she's looking for another job and doesn't want to tell me until she's sure. But the thing was getting more and more obvious. She started asking me a lot about my work schedule, like, "What time are you leaving? Tomorrow? Are you going to be late on Thursday?" And when I asked her why she needed to know, she'd just say, "No, just nothing. Just to know if I should make dinner or not." One day, it was a Tuesday, I think. I got home around 3 in the afternoon because we had finished work early. Normally, I'd arrive like 6 or 7. I found Tiffany in the living room with a bunch of papers scattered on the coffee table, and when she saw me come in, she literally went pale. The color completely left her face. She picked up the papers super quickly and put them in a folder, and she told me something like, "Oh, you scared me. I didn't know you were going to arrive early." I asked her what those papers were, and she told me they were work stuff. Boring reports she had to review at home. I didn't press her more at that moment, but something didn't add up to me. Why would she be reviewing work papers on the living room table instead of at her desk? And why did she get so nervous? 2 weeks later, and This is where everything literally exploded. I received a package from a real estate agency, a large envelope with my name and my house address. I opened it thinking maybe it was advertising or something, but no, inside there were like 15 pages of documents related to the sale of a property, my property. My house was listed for sale for $285,000. There were professional photos of the interior that I had never authorized. There was a schedule of programmed visits. There was an exclusivity contract with a real estate agent. There was everything. I stood there at the entrance of my house, reading those papers over and over because my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. I looked for Tiffany all over the house and found her in the bedroom. I showed her the papers and said, "What the hell is this?" And she, I swear, first tried to act surprised, like, "What? I don't understand what you're talking about." But I was already furious. I yelled at her to stop lying and to explain to me why my house was for sale without my knowledge or authorization. She stayed quiet for a moment. I could see how her brain was working, looking for what to say, and finally she burst into tears and confessed everything. Turns out Tiffany had forged my signature on several documents to list the house for sale. She had hired a real estate agent. She had organized photo sessions. She had scheduled visits from potential buyers for the days she knew I would be working. Her plan was to sell the house, take the money from the sale, give like $150,000 to her parents so they could pay their debt and save their house, and then tell me that we could look for another place to live together, maybe rent an apartment or something. When she was telling me this through tears, I felt like I had been kicked in the stomach. I couldn't breathe well. My hands were shaking. I said, "Did you really think this was going to work? How were you going to explain that suddenly we had to move? How did you think you'd handle the whole legal part of a real estate transaction without me finding out?" She tried to justify herself, saying she did it out of love for her family, that her parents were going to end up on the street, that she had no other option, that she knew I would never agree to help them, so she had to do it behind my back. And the most incredible thing is that she seemed to genuinely believe I should understand her, like she was expecting me to say, "Oh, okay, it's fine. I understand why you committed fraud and tried to sell my house without my permission." But I was beyond furious. I told her to get out of my house immediately, to pack her things and leave. She completely changed her attitude, went from crying and repentant to being angry and yelling that I was selfish, that she had lived there for 2 years and had rights. How was I going to kick her out just like that? I gave her exactly 2 hours to pack and leave. I stood there watching her put her clothes in suitcases while she insulted me and told me I was going to regret it, that this wasn't going to stay like this. When she finally left, I immediately called a lawyer, a guy that a friend recommended named Raymond Parker. I told him the whole situation, and he was like, "This is serious fraud. You need to act fast." He helped me contact the real estate agency to cancel the listing. We had to prove that I was the sole owner of the property and that I had never authorized the sale. The real estate agent was super confused because Tiffany had shown them documents that seemed legitimate. I mean, she had done a complete job with the forgery. Raymond explained that I had 2 options. I could let Tiffany go and just end the relationship, or I could press criminal charges for fraud. He told me that if I didn't do anything, she would basically get away without consequences and could try it with another person in the future. I was thinking about it for several days because, I don't know, part of me, I still felt something for her despite everything. Or maybe it wasn't that I felt something, but that I felt guilty about ruining her life with criminal charges. But then I thought about what she tried to do to me. She literally tried to steal my house, my assets, years of my life working, and it made me so angry that I decided to go ahead with the charges. While all this was happening, Tiffany started a campaign on social media, painting herself as the victim. She posted on Facebook a super distorted story where she said I had kicked her out of the house for no reason, that she had contributed to the payments. Total lie. I paid for everything. That I was an abuser who had emotionally manipulated her for years. Some mutual friends believed her and started sending me messages saying, how could I be so cruel? That how had I left her homeless? I had to explain the real situation to several of them. Some believed me and others stayed on her side. It was super draining having to justify myself and defend my version of the facts. When I was the victim in this whole situation, like 2 weeks after kicking her out, I received an alert from my security system. I had installed cameras after all the drama because Raymond recommended it. He told me that people in situations like this sometimes try to come back to steal things or cause damage. And he was right because the cameras caught Tiffany and her dad trying to get into my house at like 2 in the morning. You could clearly see in the video how the dad was trying to force the back door with something. It looked like a crowbar or a screwdriver. I called the police immediately, and they arrived in like 10 minutes. By the time they arrived, Tiffany and her dad had managed to break the lock on the back door, but hadn't entered yet because my alarm went off and scared them. The police arrested them right there. Tiffany started screaming that she had the right to enter because she had lived there, that she just wanted to pick up her Axie things. But I had all the text messages where I had told her she could coordinate with me to pick up anything she had left, so that excuse didn't work. Her dad stayed quiet. I think he knew they were in serious trouble. They were charged with attempted trespassing and attempted burglary, and Raymond helped me present all the evidence from the cameras. The security system had recorded everything in high definition, like you could see their faces and what they were doing perfectly. After that, like a week later, Tiffany started with another manipulation tactic. She sent me a text message saying she was pregnant, that it was my child, that she needed to talk to me urgently. I felt total panic at that moment because I thought, it can't be. This can't be happening now. But then I talked to Raymond, and he told me it was very likely a lie, that it was a common tactic from desperate people to regain control of the situation. He recommended I ask her for medical proof, and she first said I was going to send it to me, but then got angry and told me, how could I not trust her? What kind of father was I going to be if I was already doubting? Raymond insisted we needed proof before making any decision, and it turns out Tiffany never sent anything. Weeks later, I found out through a mutual friend that she wasn't even pregnant, that it had all been a lie to try to get me to drop the charges. Like a month after the trespassing incident, I received a letter from Tiffany's lawyer. It was the most ridiculous thing I've read in my life. Basically, they said I owed Tiffany financial compensation for leaving her homeless, that she had palimony rights because we had lived together, that I had promised to marry her, so she had given up job opportunities for me. Another lie. She never gave up anything. They were asking for like $50,000 in compensation plus a public apology. Raymond laughed when I showed him the letter. He told me it was pure bluff, that they were trying to scare me into reaching a settlement and dropping the criminal charges. Raymond responded with a super strong letter, where he basically told them we weren't going to pay anything, that we had solid evidence of fraud and trespassing, that if they continued with unfounded legal threats, we would countersue for harassment and extortion. After that letter, we never heard from Tiffany's lawyer again. They went completely silent. The legal process was long, like 6 months total. Tiffany and her dad eventually accepted plea deals with the prosecutor's office, where they pleaded guilty to lesser charges in exchange for avoiding prison time. Tiffany had to pay a fine of like $5,000, do 200 hours of community service, and she's on probation for 2 years. Her dad had a similar deal but with more hours of community service. Both have to stay away from me and my property. There's a restraining order against them. Emotionally, it was horrible, honestly. For months I couldn't sleep well. Every noise at night would wake me up thinking someone was trying to get in. I developed like paranoia. I'd check the security cameras compulsively from my phone even when I was at work. I stopped trusting people. Like even with close friends, I'd start thinking, could it be they have ulterior motives? Could it be they see me as someone they can use? I started going to therapy with a doctor named Laura Henderson. She helped me process all the trauma and the feeling of betrayal. She made me understand that not everyone is like Tiffany, that what she did was an exception, not the rule, but even today I have a hard time opening up emotionally with someone new. The hardest thing was dealing with the guilt I felt sometimes. I know it sounds weird, but there were moments where I thought, should I have helped them with the money? Could I have avoided all this if I had simply been more generous? Laura helped me understand that those thoughts were irrational, that I had no obligation to risk my financial stability for other people's mistakes, and that what Tiffany did was wrong regardless of her parents' circumstances. Now, like 2 years after all this, I'm better. I sold the house a few months ago because I didn't feel comfortable there anymore. Too many bad memories. I bought another smaller one in a different neighborhood, and I'm starting over. I changed the locks like 5 times, I installed an even more complete security system, and only 2 people have backup keys, my brother and my best friend. I haven't had a serious relationship since then. I've gone out with some people casually, but I don't let anyone move in with me or give them access to important financial information. Maybe eventually I'll trust someone enough for that again, but for now I'm fine alone. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't come home early that day and hadn't seen the papers on the table. If Tiffany had managed to sell the house without me finding out until it was too late. It gives me chills to think about that. I also wonder if she really thought her plan was going to work, or if she was so desperate that she just acted without thinking about the consequences. I guess I'll never know the answer. What I did learn is that there are people who see relationships as transactions, as opportunities to get something, and that some people are capable of lying and manipulating even those they supposedly love if they think they can get away with it. I learned to set firmer boundaries and not feel guilty about protecting what's mine. And I learned that it's okay to be cautious and distrustful after you're betrayed that way. That you don't have to rush to trust people again just because others say you should get over it. Last week, my brother asked me if I had ever given Tiffany a second chance, if she had tried to contact me to really apologize. The answer is no. She never genuinely apologized. The only messages I received from her after everything were empty, legal, threats, or manipulation attempts. And honestly, I don't care anymore if she regrets it or not. That part of my life is closed, and I have no intention of opening it again. I'm focused on rebuilding my life and making sure no one ever puts me in a situation like that again.